my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. This is one I've been wanting to make for a while now, but with the inclusion of Cad Bane in chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, I thought the timing was perfect, and the theory just got way more interesting. One of the biggest questions we've had ever since the show started is when is Fennec Shand going to tell Boba Fett that he's got a sister, Omega? Fennec was hired by Nala Se to capture her during the Bad Batch, and the two characters had more than one run-in over 28 years before the events of the Book of Boba Fett. And in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons that Jennifer Corbett and Dave Filoni put Fennec Shand in the Bad Batch was to later connect story elements that we're now seeing play out in the Mandalorian universe. Fennec Shand has been a renowned master assassin for many years, but she's unique in the sense that she's one of the very few people who've known both Boba and Omega. Cad Bane is the only other person, and he also knew Jango, but we're gonna come back to Cad Bane in just a moment. With just one episode to go of season 1, we must wonder, why hasn't Fennec brought up Omega yet? After all, she's already put 2 and 2 together that the two are related, and the proof of this is in chapter 3. Boba Fett references Kamino when he tells the watermonger that he grew up surrounded by water, and Fennec Shand nods as if she's heard that story a million times. In the time between Boba rescued Fennec and him becoming daimyo, he has undoubtedly told her his backstory, and while he presumably does not know about Omega, Fennec does, and has likely worked out that Omega is the only other unaltered Jango clone created on Kamino before the Clone Wars. So why hasn't she said anything? Well, I think there are a few strong possibilities, but first of all, let me tell you my personal theory. Simply put, Fennec has had no reason to bring up Omega yet, because she's had no reason to remember her encounter with her. Omega is somebody that Fennec Shand has probably not thought about in years, and with all of the jobs she's taken ever since the Clone Wars, meeting Omega was just another encounter. But with Cad Bane now being in the show, seeing him might trigger her memory. In other words, Cad Bane is going to give her a reason to remember that iconic face-off on Borovio, and with it comes the memory of Omega. That's what I think, but let's explore 3 other options. First of all, we simply do not know where Omega ended up by this point in the timeline, and there's a good chance that Fennec doesn't know either, so bringing her up could just be futile. The second option is that she has brought her up to Boba off screen, and maybe in season 2, if we get one, Boba decides that he finally wants to search the galaxy for her whereabouts. And option 3 is that Fennec hasn't had a good reason to mention her yet. And just like my theory, this also ties into Cad Bane, who in my opinion is going to be the catalyst in Omega being brought up. As we go into chapter 7, the ultimate final episode of the Book of Boba Fett, Cad Bane and Boba are likely going to face off, and Bane is someone who, as I mentioned, has met all 3 Fetts. A passing statement where he says that he's fed up with the Fett family could trigger a mention of his encounter with Omega, assuming he found out that Omega was indeed a Fett. Then Boba might say, "What the hell are you talking about?" and that's how it could come up. Or even before Boba encounters Cad Bane, word could get to him that Cad Bane is on Tatooine as the Pike Syndicate's muscle and enforcer, with the intention of killing Fett. This could trigger the conversation with Fennec Shand and lead to a mention of Omega. Where it goes from there could easily be a setup for season 2. And since there is so much story to tell with Omega between the Bad Batch and the Book of Boba Fett, I think it's way too early to bring her into live action. But the implications of a name drop or simple mention could be huge for the Star Wars universe. And where she ends up by the time of the New Republic era is pretty important, because it could tell us how she's going to appear in a future season of the Book of Boba Fett, or even the Mandalorian. And the possibilities are endless. Is she Force sensitive? Did she become a bounty hunter, a Mandalorian, a member of the rebellion, or something else entirely? I guess that's for us to find out at a later date. In either case, I think eventually Boba's story arc is leading to him meeting the only other unaltered Jango clone. And as Jon Favreau said prior to the show dropping, as a clone, life has not been easy for Boba, and the theme of family, identity, and belonging has been central to this show. Even before, when he was a bounty hunter, life was extremely unstable. And as Tom Morrison said, to this very day, the loss of his father all those years ago on Geonosis still affects him, as we saw in the flashbacks in the Bacta pod. And while the Tusken Raiders took him in, he lost them too, and the only family he's known since are his allies. But imagine when he finds out that there's someone else out there just like him. And granted, Omega has enhancements, they still have a very similar genetic code, and just the fact that he's got a sister could mean more to him than we know. In a very large way, Omega is the only direct family he has out there, and that could make for a very fascinating quest if he chooses to search for her in season 2. Of course, you could argue that a similar connection could be made if Boba comes across other surviving clones like Captain Rex. But Omega has been set up to be the direct sibling to Boba. He was Alpha and she is Omega. And what an amazing day that's going to be when the two of them finally meet. I've seen some people say that perhaps they met before Boba's fall into the Sarlacc, and that's absolutely a possibility. One that we could see play out in the Bad Batch season 2, but I can't help but feel that it would be too irresistible to not have it in live action in a future episode of the Book of Boba Fett. So while I do feel like it's way too early to have Omega in live action, that doesn't mean that we won't get some sort of tease or name drop in the next episode. And with Cad Bane coming into the picture, that would make for a very significant moment in Star Wars history. And it's also a great way to cross-promote the Bad Batch, because for those who haven't seen it, mentioning Omega will get people wondering where else she's appeared. So that will get folks who haven't seen it to go and check out the Bad Batch season 1, and as we know, season 2 is coming most likely on May the 4th. If Boba does not know he has a sister yet, I'm sure it's something he'd really want to know. So to put it simply, my dear friends, I think the reason Fennec Shand has not told him yet is because the timing has not been right, and it's just not come up. Cad Bane is a huge figure in the past of Boba. Cad Bane was mentored by and got on well with Jango, but when it comes to Boba Fett, the feeling is not the same, and there is a long history of tension between the two. So if we do get a showdown in chapter 7, that is the one that Clone Wars fans have been dying to see for many years. It's all coming together, my dear friends, and I can't wait to share all of the excitement for this last chapter once it drops. We're going to have so much to talk about, and some major players are no doubt going to be in it. The finale promises tons of surprises, and I'm here for it. I'm sure it's going to be an absolute treat. But as with all theories, speculation, and explained videos, everyone has their own opinion, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't be afraid to share your thoughts of why Fennec Shand has not brought up Omega yet. So if you guys enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are, and why not click that link in the description and check out my Patreon page. There are so many videos for you to enjoy that are not found here on YouTube. But until the next one, guys, may the Force be with you all. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.